Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of December 16th, 2019. On the show today, news from all around Walt Disney World. And in our main segment, Jim reviews a great new book about Disney legend Ub Iwerks. Let's get started by bringing in the man who would like to formally apologize for showing up in a trench coat to your baby's gender reveal party. He thought everyone was participating. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
I'm still scrubbing off the blue paint, Len. I don't understand how I misunderstood that, but
it's a new phenomenon. We're still trying to all get used to the rules. I get it. All right, Jim, let's do a shout out to subscribers over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Thanks to new subscribers Jeff J, Jay Burnett, and TC Hoff, and longtime subscribers White Angus, Johnny V, and Tom VH. True story, Jim. These talented folks are the understudies for all the shows at next month's Disney on Broadway series at Epcot. I'm just saying, it's unlikely that Josh Strickland and Ashley Brown both get stuck on the Disney Skyliner, hypothetically speaking, on February 10th and 12th between the hours of 5 and 9 p.m. God forbid. But if they do, it's on to fame and fortune for our subscribers.
You're going out a star, kid.
Exactly. Onward to glory.
There we go.
All right, Jim, let's do the news. Jim, let's start with Rise of the Resistance. So it's been about a week since the ride has opened. A couple of things that have held true. Every single review that I've seen of this ride says it's fantastic, my own included. I called it one of the best Disney rides in decades. The other thing is that the ride continues not to operate all that well. So multiple shutdowns every day on it. Here's what you guys need to know, though, if you're listening. You need to get a boarding group through the My Disney Experience app as soon as you get into the park. Today, the official park opening was 7 a.m. Park actually opened at 6:35 a.m., and all of the boarding groups were gone by 7:15 a.m. So within 15 minutes of official opening or about 45 minutes of actual opening, all of the boarding groups are gone. And that's only going to get worse with Christmas, right, Jim?
Oh, God, yeah. Nobody's debating that it's a wonderful ride, but when people are getting up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning so they can be at the studios for, to be in line to get in at 6:30. This isn't the ideal vacation experience.
No, that's what I was thinking. The boarding group and the downtime and the popularity of the ride is having the exact opposite effect that Disney wanted when it implemented FastPass Plus. Because remember, the motivation for FastPass Plus was, I've spent $10,000 on my vacation to stay at the Grand Floridian. Why the hell do I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning to go to the Magic Kingdom to get paper fast passes for the rides I want to ride? Right? Why am I spending all this money and still not getting on the best rides? And now we have that situation again. So it can't last that long. I'm interested to see what happens at Christmas.
Christmas to me is you're along the interstate, then there's that car crash that you can't not look at. I can't imagine this. And how long ago was that Disney introduced that new, hey, if you buy a ticket for 12 noon to get into the park, we'll cut you a break?
Oh, the after 12 tickets. Yeah, they're actually pretty popular. I had friends last week who were here and bought a couple of them, like a couple days worth of tickets to do that. Yeah. Like, my kids are teens. They're sleeping till 11 o'clock anyway. Why am I buying a full day ticket?
You get this bargain on admission, but you also arrive in the park with absolutely no shot whatsoever of getting on the ride that everybody's talking about. I'm concerned about what this is going to be like over the Christmas holidays.
You've seen Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, right?
Oh, jeez.
Let's take today, for example. Let's assume today is going to be what happens at Christmas, right? So park's official opening is 7 a.m. It actually opened at 6:35 a.m. All the boarding groups were gone by 7:15, right? So you had to be in the park by 7:15 to have a chance at a boarding group. Could you imagine what the crowds were like that last 15 minutes, or what they'll be like for Christmas in the last 15 minutes before they know it's going to run out? It will be like it'll be either, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, or it'll be like, you've seen those videos of people trying to get the last helicopter out of Hanoi at the end of the Vietnam War.
Damn.
It'll be like that.
2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Just sort of, okay. I'll comfortably viewing this from a distance in New Hampshire.
Oh, I'm going. I'm just going to go see what happens. I think we actually have people in the park trying to figure out what kind of hourly ride capacity they're managing to get through
Wow.
Rise of the Resistance. So far, it's not been great. And Disney's kind of in a pickle here, right? They've starting this week, right? It's Christmas, so the park hours get extended. You'll see that they actually switched morning extra magic hours to evening extra magic hours, right? So they don't have to open the park extra early again. So they've got extended hours for Christmas, right? And which limits the amount of time that they can work on the ride. That's going to last till early January. Then they've got the marathon, and people are coming down for that. Then they've got Martin Luther King Day. Then February they've got President's Day and Mardi Gras, and March is spring break and April is Easter. Plus, they on January 17th they've got to get Rise open in Disneyland, which means anyone who knows anything on how to finish the ride is headed to California.
Oh, jeez.
Plus, March 4th, they've got to open Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway on time, and they've committed to that date as well. So, you've got 75 days to get these issues right.
Okay. I'm just going to start, collecting money for your flowers. Because again, if you're in the crowds dealing with this when this is happening, Len, it's been nice knowing you.
Well, the thing is, okay, so like the park's official opening is 7 a.m. and they're changing this every day. So again, if you're going, check My Disney Experience the night before. And right now, if you show up like this week before Christmas, if you show up an hour beforehand, you'll get in a boarding group, right? So the park opened at 6:35. If you got there at 5:30, you were fine, right? You got in a boarding group. But Christmas, don't forget, is going to bring larger, more competitive crowds. And I would say 2 hours is the amount of time you should show up in advance there. It's going to be really interesting to see.
Any other good news, Len?
No, that's it.
Okay.
So, here, Jim, I do have one piece of news though for you. So I was over at the in the Magic Kingdom this morning, over at the Art of Disney. Remember the old Main Street Cinema?
Yep.
Okay, and it's now sort of like a Disney art store. Not for nothing, Jim, but I was in there, and the only other people in that store were a bunch of Disney employees with blueprints.
Oh, not again.
So my sense is something's gonna look for that space to be undergoing some sort of renovation in the near future. There were a lot of people with a lot of blueprints. Let's put it that way. My guess is this is some sort of other retail space that's going to happen there.
Not really a surprise. Disney has kind of resigned itself to the fact that our shopping patterns on Main Street have in fact changed. Back in the day, you had your bank on the right, you had your photo shop on the right, and so on and so forth. And now we live in a Starbucks world, and nobody's going to the Magic Kingdom to buy art. If they're buying art during their Disney World vacation, most likely they're doing it at Disney Springs. So it's like, why not, use this primo piece of real estate in the retail corridor of your busiest, most popular theme park for something that people will actually want. I'm fascinated by what is that in 2020.
Right, because you go from the confectionery into the cinema and then into the Starbucks. I think there's a store between the two. It could be food. It could be other retail stuff that you wouldn't mind carrying around the park. I guess. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going in there, and it's a relatively small space too.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I have heard out ahead of the 50th that they are looking to do specialty retail items, but that just doesn't seem to be the space to do that, especially with,
it's kind of closed off. Yeah, not sure.
Okay,
we'll see what happens. Jim, speaking of Starbucks, you just mentioned it over at Epcot. A temporary Starbucks is opening near Refreshment Port, so our long national nightmare is over.
I was about to say yes. Nobody quite likes to deal with the under-caffeinated, especially in Epcot. So again, this is welcome news. So
yeah, looking forward to that. Still haven't got announcements on where the other things are going, the Club Cools and whatnot, but hopefully soon. Also, Jim, have you heard this, that the demolition plans for Epcot may have changed slightly?
Okay.
So they're demolishing the Innovations Plaza stuff, the old buildings in the center of Future World. The interesting thing, if you look at the aerial images that Bio Reconstruct puts on Twitter, it looks like they're going to demolish a bit more of one of those buildings, I think, to make more room for that multi-tiered pavilion that's going right by the edge of World Showcase. I can't tell whether the sort of there's that overhang on Future World West. I don't know if that's staying or not. That's the big question.
I have heard from a couple of different sources that lake that's off to the side of where the Epcot Experience, the old Odyssey restaurant is located.
Yep.
That's where the sinkhole, the infamous sinkhole is located. And, supposedly, again, they were just in the process of, in addition to demo, they've been doing some test borings and things like that. And it's just the whole notion of we have this 3-story building, which is going to be, our beautiful centerpiece of future celebration or world celebration.
Sure. Communication, world, something.
Yeah. And it was just the whole notion of, you do remember the sinkhole over there, right?
Exactly.
Maybe.
You'll learn about it soon enough, if not.
So maybe this is more about, okay, we maybe need a little more support for this. So maybe a couple of the structures are going down. So
I wonder if they're dumping the, like when they had to break up all the concrete and when they're breaking down the buildings, the building that was Club Cool and stuff like that. I wonder if they're just throwing it in the sinkhole.
On behalf of environmentality, Len, I don't think that's how it works.
What would Jiminy Cricket say here?
Well, they probably tied him to a cinder block and heaved him into the hole.
All right. Jim, we'll see what's going on with that next week. Speaking of Epcot, though, have you heard about the new L'Chaim Holiday Kitchen food booth?
You have to understand, I live in the woods of New Hampshire. I make the pilgrimage, and these days it's so much harder, especially where I live, to find a good deli. And the notion that Epcot, this might actually get me to go to Epcot, Len.
During the holidays,
body to body. But, the whole notion of, pastrami, actual pastrami inside of Epcot. Oh, my God.
I thought it was a gimmick, right? When I first saw it, it's between Morocco and France. So I walk through that area a lot because I generally park at the Boardwalk or Beach Club when I go into Epcot. It's easier. So I walk by this area a lot. And I thought it was a gimmick, the first couple of times I saw it. But I was there last week, man, and every single thing on that menu is fantastic. So you're right. There's a pastrami on rye with house-made pickles and actual deli mustard, which is amazing. I mean, it's like a little slice of New York, right? But it was cold when I was there last week. The smoked salmon potato latke is fabulous. Also, you can also get latkes with sour cream, which is great.
Okay.
But for dessert, jelly-filled donuts and black and white cookies. I mean, it's the quintessential Jewish New York experience in the middle of Florida. It's fantastic.
And the egg cream. This is, I got to tell you, Len, since Joan and Ed's, the deli up in Natick, Massachusetts, shut down, and then I don't even want to talk about what went on with the Stage Door Deli and the others in New York, and the fact that all of these sort of signposts of those of us who love the deli experience, that they've disappeared. The fact that this is here is just, for me, just so exciting. I cannot wait to try this stuff out.
You mentioned the deli experience, so we've got a deli around the corner from my apartment in New York, and when I'm there, Laurel loves to go for lunch, and normally I'll get a sandwich. Like I like turkey or pastrami or whatever. Today I decided to order a hamburger, right? And so Laurel and I are sitting across from each other at a table, and the woman who clearly has owned the deli for like 70 years is taking our order. And so Laurel orders whatever she orders. Yep. And I'm ordering my hamburger, and then at the last minute I'm like, "Can I get cheese on that?" And the woman looks at me. And she looks at Laurel, and Laurel says, No, you can't. And the woman just kept writing. Didn't say a word, didn't arch the eyebrows, just took her eyes off the pad. Yeah. The notepad, looked at me, looked at Laurel, and was basically telling Laurel, like, you handle this idiot, not me. The schmuck over here.
Honestly.
I was like, you know what? Never mind. So no bacon on that too? No.
Yeah. You're killing me. No, that's why you go.
She looked at me like, give me strength. No. And then looked at Laurel like, you live with this on a daily basis? Dude, this is what you chose?
This is what I love about the Delhi experience. You have these employees who've worked there for decades who are like, no, you're not having that.
No, exactly. That's what it was. No.
No.
No, you're not. We could, but we're not.
There we go. So
exactly. So anyway, all right, Jim, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, you're going to tell us all about the new book that's come out about Disney legend Ubiworks, right?
Yep.
We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. New players, new games, new rules. Squid Game, The Challenge returns for a gripping second season. 456 contestants from all walks of life, competing in the ultimate test of strategy, alliances, and endurance. For a life-changing prize of $4.56 million. With stakes this high, why make friends when you can make millions? Watch Squid Game, The Challenge Season 2, only on Netflix November 4th.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
You have some news on a new book that's out. There's a lot of very good Disney books out lately, right? We talked about the one on Mark Davis, which is still a fantastic book and a great Christmas present.
Yep.
And there's a new one out on Ubiworks. Why don't you tell us about that?
this one, Walt Disney's Ultimate Inventor, The Genius of Ubiworks. This actually debuted on December 10th. It's written by Ub's son, Don Iwerks, who's an actual Disney legend in and of himself. That he was inducted into the company's Hall of Fame back in September 2009 for his work on Captain EO, which, seamlessly combines on-screen footage with in-theater effects, as well as the onboard projection system that makes Star Tours possible. And
Really? So modern theater experiences at Disney and then modern simulators.
Yep. If we're going to talk about Don writing a book about his dad, we should talk about a project that Don worked on with his dad. And that's that staple of the Disney theme parks, the CircleVision show.
Oh, got two new ones coming up, or at least one new one coming up next month, right? We got the Canada Far and Wide, right?
Mm-hmm. That one is going to be done in the the second CircleVision format, the 9-screen. When this format initially debuted at the theme parks in 55, there was an 11-screen version.
11 screens covering 360 degrees.
There you go.
I know, Jim, that 11 does not divide 360 evenly, so there must have been some overlap in screens.
Well, yes, in fact, Don and his dad learned the hard. Not only that the ideal way to shoot a movie is not necessarily with the cameras stuck to the roof of a Rambler. We'll get to that story in a sec. We were supposed to get 4 brand new films in 2010 over at Epcot. We were supposed to get Awesome Planet, the update of Circle of Life over at the Land. We were also supposed to get the Beauty and the Beast sing-along that's going to be swapping in the little theater there. But we were also supposed to get Wondrous China, which...
What's coming, right?
Well, slower.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been told by friends at the company that the tariff battle between the Trump administration and the Chinese government, this was one of the casualties. The sad part of it is this was supposed to be the film that debuted the seamless 360 CircleVision experience.
Are we getting seamless in Canada?
As I understand it, no.
Really?
And anybody who's been to the Epcot experience in the old Odyssey building knows what an amazing... it really steps up the experience to have, this continuous image.
Right. We talked about this on the previous show that it's sort of the demonstration of the seamless 360-degree technology. Mm-hmm. Not for nothing, but during the Rise of the Resistance press event, Disney PR had allocated the Epcot experience building for like 6 hours to demonstrate that to the media. So they're particularly proud of it, and rightfully so.
I don't know. I get that. Again, as they should be, but that's the thing. It's just the Wondrous China film was being done not just for Epcot, but it was also supposed to go into Shanghai Disneyland. And so the fact that, we're in this political tug-of-war situation it's not just one theme park that's being screwed up by politics. But, well, anyway, all right, to get back to the CircleVision story. Okay, so the story starts in the late 1940s, early 1950s, which is when television's on the rise, and most executives in Hollywood are terrified because this little black box with all of its free entertainment is cutting into movie ticket sales.
It totally did.
The one man in Hollywood who is not frightened of television is Walt Disney. But that's largely because Walt looked at it and said, okay, I can work with this. And it's as early as Christmas Day 1950s. He's doing his first exclusively made for TV special, 1 Hour in Wonderland, which was presented on NBC on that time when everybody's watching television, Len, which is 4 to 5 o'clock.
There's only 3 channels.
Yeah, but 4 to 5 o'clock. It's just sort of like, what I guess from Walt's point of view, well, okay, they'll have eaten dinner. They're tired of looking at their relatives. Let's put on a TV show.
It's the same formula that the NFL follows on holidays, right? There's definitely something playing between 4 and 5 o'clock. All right.
Okay, so Walt right off the bat recognized the potential of television. In fact, that's honestly why he cut that deal in September 53 with ABC to do a weekly series. And whereas the other studios in Hollywood, they basically declared war on television. They were like, whatever we need to do to battle the little black box, let's do it. And in fact, they thought the way to go after the little black box was with the biggest possible screen.
Right. Provide something that you can't get in your home.
That's it exactly. So September of 52, we get Cinerama debuts. This is literally 3 35 millimeter cameras, or projectors synced up to create an image that's 143 degrees of image length. So it basically fills your field of vision. It's not 180. It's certainly not 360, but it's pretty spectacular for the time. But the problem was, from an exhibitor point of view, it's like the only way I could show a movie that's in this format is I build a brand new auditorium, build a brand new projection booth with 3 projectors as opposed to 1, or I have to take one of my existing auditoriums and retool it for this format and hope to God that it's not the next 3D, that, something that they only make a couple of movies in and then, abandon. And in fact, a lot of the exhibitors were right. The format was debuted in 52. It wasn't till 62 that we saw our first real movies made in Cinerama, the Wonderful World of Brothers Grimm and How the West Was Won.
I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but you and I have talked about the first set of Cinerama films. And the first one was basically, this is Cinerama, right?
Yeah,
it's a demonstration of the technology.
Don Iwerks looks at this. And for example, the famous footage of, I want to say it's the roller coaster at Coney Island.
Roller coaster, yeah. This is Cinerama, yeah.
And it's like, this is cool. But, for Don, it's like, why stop at 143 degrees of imagery? Wouldn't it be cooler? Wouldn't it be, far more exciting to do a full 360? And so he and his son, Don, sort of noodle away at this idea. And as you mentioned, they initially come up with this 11-camera rig. And now they turn to Walt and go, hey, we have this idea. And this is January 55. And Walt Disney has just decided after, it's like, okay, Tomorrowland, we're not going to have ready till December of 56. We just don't have the money. And in January, he changes his mind. It's like, okay, we have to have Tomorrowland for opening day. And that's July 17th, 55. And so they start throwing up the steel for the buildings with no idea of what's going into these things, Len. Don begins his pitch to Walt about, hey, I got this idea. We'll do this thing with 11 cameras. And Walt, good, fine, yeah, great. By the way, could you shoot that like now? Because I need something in July. And so it's worth noting this is the very first attraction that was shot in this format. And by the way, at that point, it was called Circarama rather than CircleVision, because the American Motor Company was footing the bill now for not only construction of the theater, but also underwriting the cost of the movie.
Okay, so Circar, C-A-R.
There we go.
Comma. Okay.
All right, so it's now time to shoot the first movie, that's going to be shown in this theater. And it's called A Tour of the West, though if you talk with old Disneyland veterans, the real name of the show should be anything you can shoot in like a day and a half that's around LA, because we need this thing for July.
So a tour of the West is basically East Los Angeles out to the desert.
No, that's it exactly. They do things like
technically the West. It's not false advertising. It's the West.
they shoot for example, the Los Angeles freeways, or they do the footage that sort of lifted its idea from the roller coaster at Coney Island thing is they put the rig out on Wilshire Boulevard and under crank so it looks like you were speeding through that stretch of Los Angeles.
Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But to make sure that it actually had some footage outside of LA, they sent a camera crew out to the Grand Canyon and Utah's Monument Valley, where
that sort of the classic Western scenes, right? Anything, shoot what John Ford would shoot.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem. John Ford had the luxury of I just pick the prettiest views, and whereas Don and Ub learned the hard way that okay, that looks lovely, but behind us is a
trailer park. Yeah, exactly.
We are a full decade away from Lady Bird Johnson's Keep America Beautiful campaign. And there were billboards everywhere.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because in a standard film like John Ford, this is a great point. You only have to worry about what's in front of the camera. But in a Circarama film, you've got to worry about what's all the way around you. And that's much harder to do location setting for. Good point.
And think about this, Len. You are using magazines that only have 200 feet of film in them at any one time. And when you go to reshoot, you have to reload all 11 cameras.
11 of them.
The fact that they got this thing shot, they got it back to California, they got it edited. In fact, I'm told the score was by Buddy Baker. So the next time
it was.
All right, there we go. So they get it open, and oddly enough, it's one of the only attractions on opening day at Disneyland that does not break down, and it wows people, and it's a hit right out of the box. So jump ahead to 1958 now. The 1958 World's Fair in Brussels is looming. And, Walt has this technology. Again, they have this film that was shot, on a dime as close to LA as possible. And it's just sort of like, I would really like us to take another swing at this. But, a larger canvas, like, say, the entire United States.
So he sends the team out.
They have more time, they have more money, and they shoot America the Beautiful, which is one of the hits of the 1958 World's Fair. So much so that they bring it back to Disneyland, and in March of 1960, it's now in a featured attraction in Tomorrowland with a brand new sponsor, the Bell Telephone System. But this is also where Walt gets the idea of, wow, we really do want to do World's Fairs from here on in, because we get to make brand new shows for the parks on somebody else's dime. So this is where the battle plan for the 64 World's Fair comes from. Anyway, jump ahead to 67. We have a brand new Tomorrowland, and we debut a brand new version of the America Beautiful film. Only in this case, we finally switched over from the 11 cameras to the 9-camera version of CircleVision.
Okay.
Everyone loves this movie, so much so that when Walt Disney World opens in October of 71, by the time they finally get the Tomorrowland Theater open, which is Thanksgiving, they also are showing America the Beautiful. But Monsanto, who is sponsoring the attraction at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, they insist that they get, whatever guest comments that are made about this CircleVision 360.
Sure.
And a lot of guests actually swing by City Hall and like, hey, I can't help but notice that's a film from the 60s, because the cars are out of date, the clothes are out of date.
It's 1972 at this point, right? It opens late November of 71.
Yeah.
And they probably start seeing comments in 72.
Yeah, and so Monsanto is like, hey, what were you guys going to do about this? And Wed's like, all right, cool, we can handle this. But they decide, all right, let's go bigger. Instead of just shooting in the United States, let's go around the world. And so that's why in March of 1974, we get Magic Carpet Round the World.
Ooh.
You gotta love Disney guests, because what do with their brand new film? They go down to City Hall and complain about, where did the America show go?
Oh, God.
Which, in hindsight, 1974, American Bicentennial is looming. It's like, maybe
I get it.
Not the greatest shot. So, Disney takes to heart the complaints as well as the pressure from Monsanto. They actually send a film crew to Philadelphia, which is doing the very first of the bicentennial activities and gets footage there, which they then cut into the old America the Beautiful film. And that then runs...
And I've shared with you our friend Chris Ham's footage of the behind-the-scenes shooting of this film, right?
And it's just...
So our friend Chris, who had access to the Monsanto archives, actually got a copy of the making of film for America the Beautiful, and it includes, to your point, they mounted these 9 cameras on the back of a station wagon, especially customized station wagon, and drove it up to Independence Hall in Philadelphia, and they mounted it on the bottom of a B-25 bomber and flew it over cities, which I'm sure was went over really well in Europe, but sure, why not? Yeah, but we have the behind the scenes shooting, and is really interesting. They also did it around the St. Louis Arch as well. I believe
I'm always impressed at the efforts these guys put in to get the shots that they get. And as we mentioned, every time they do this is in the era of film. The whole notion of, okay, let's fly over the arch one more time. Let's pull the rig back into the plane. Let's change out all the film magazines. I mean, it's just ridiculously expensive, labor-intensive process.
And for some of these things, it's not like you can say, like you can now, we'll fix it in post-production, right?
Oh, no.
We'll remove that cloud, or we'll fix this. We'll fix this with our computer-generated images in post. Not in the 70s, you weren't.
Soarin' around the world, the number of complaints that you hear from Disney theme park fans about where you can tell where it's obviously CG, that even in this giant format with this distorted lens, there were still things that people are like, oh, that's fake. That's not a real element. Or
It is. So I actually looked at this in the last couple of weeks, and the question that I got from a listener was, lots of people are complaining about the CG images in Soarin' Around the World. But if you look at the guest satisfaction surveys for it versus the original film, is there any difference? And it turns out there's not. So it's a vocal minority of people who, granted, we're theme park fans and we know what it should be, right? But the general public doesn't seem as bothered by it. It's still a valid complaint, right? It's still overly CGI'd.
But, just sometimes Disney does what Disney does. And in fact, to circle back to the CircleVision history, that we're coming up on 1979. And, here's Walt Disney World. They've announced that Epcot is a go in October of 78. It will open in October of 82. And here's Ron Miller in California. It's like, look, we're going to have an entire side of this park that's called World Showcase. And we need to get people comfortable with the notion of when they come to Florida, they're going to have an international adventure. So they literally pulled America the Beautiful out of the CircleVision Theater at Walt Disney World, and they put in a Magic Carpet Around the World. And it plays right up until 84. When Epcot opens, you've got 2 CircleVision shows in there. You've got O Canada, and you've got
Wonders of China.
Yeah, and so you have 3 international films, CircleVision presentations in Florida. But this is 1984. This is Ronald Reagan. It's Morning in America.
Oh, yeah, 80 to 84, right?
Yeah, okay. And not only that, but 84 is when the Summer Olympics are going to happen in L.A. And so Disney feels like, all right, okay, we need to do something that much more American. And they produce American Journeys, another CircleVision film, which debuts a week or so before the Summer Olympics debut in L.A., and it doesn't open in Florida till, I want to say, September of that same year. And
I don't know if I remember this one. What was different between American Journeys and the original America the Beautiful film?
What they tried to do with this one is they wanted it to be more of, for lack of a better term, a poem. For example, there's a famous scene in this one where it's in Vermont. It's the height of the fall colors, and you roll up to and go through a covered wooden bridge.
Right, okay, I remember that part, yeah.
It's more about let's celebrate sort of these classic images of America as opposed to let's fly over the arch. It's less about the engineering skills of America, but the thing that we hold close to our hearts. But at the same time, the Imagineers are like, okay, we are literally at this point. This is 84. And so now it's been 30 years of the CircleVision Circarama shows that are all travel logs. And they're like, look, guys, we could do so much more with this format. We could actually tell stories. This is at the point where they're developing Euro Disneyland. They know they're going to be doing, rather than a Tomorrowland, they're going to be just doing a Discoveryland that celebrates H.G. Wells, Da Vinci, and Jules Verne. And the notion is, well, why don't we use this format to tell, say, the life story of Jules Verne? And that then mutates into the Visionarium presentation, because this is for a European park. They shoot all over Europe. They're shooting at Red Square in Moscow. They're under the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. They're at Charles de Gaulle Airport, the Weinstein Castle in Bavaria. They even put Jules Verne at one point under the seas in the West Indies, where they shot 20,000 Leagues back in the 50s.
Wow.
Okay, so Visionarium opens in April of 1992 with the rest of the park. Is a huge hit, largely because of the Timekeeper animatronic, which just like
Robin Williams.
But just like the Wicked Witch is one of the next generation, famous for fluid movement and range of expression. Oriental Land executives come to the opening, are so impressed by Visionarium, they're like, we want that.
For Tokyo Disneyland.
Yeah, and so they immediately shut down their CircleVision 360 theater, and a year and 3 days later, on April 15th, 1993, their version of Visionarium opens up. So the Walt Disney World version is actually the third, Len. Opens November of 1994 as part of the Future That Never Was, and this is finally where people get to see the show with all of the Robin Williams and Rhea Perlman goodness. And look, you and I have talked in the past about why this show didn't connect, and all of the theories about putting the entrance in the middle of the block, and why Disney kept changing the signage and putting up banners and all that. It was one of these situations where Disney eventually just had to sort of embrace the fact that, so we tried to do a narrative-driven CircleVision show, and it didn't work. Which is why, think about it, Wonders of China, when they finally updated, in March 2003, it's just reflections of China. They go back to the travelogue format. Likewise, when O Canada gets updated in 2007, same thing. You bring in Martin Short, he's an on-screen personality. In fact, he's in the CircleVision thing, but it's still a travelogue. And then finally, when they shut down the Timekeeper, this is where we get Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor.
Right, which is not 360.
No. In fact, but what's kind of interesting is I've come across a making of documentary. In fact, you can look at it on YouTube about Visionarium. And the director in this documentary talks about, we when we were developing the show, we actually talked about whether or not we could put seats in that theater. In the end, it was just, but the thinking was, well, it'll limit the angles we could use.
Right. No one's gonna turn all the way around while sitting down.
One of the reasons that CircleVision shows aren't as popular as they used to be is the fact that, if you factor in the increasing American waistline, coupled with the fact that you have to stand up for 17 to 18 minutes. And in fact, how many times have you been in a CircleVision presentation where the cast member is like, please do not sit on the lean bars,
don't sit on the railings, don't sit down.
Just get to your feet. So the Imagineering story that's been airing on Disney Plus is actually shot by Leslie Iwerks, who is Ub Iwerks' granddaughter and Don Iwerks' daughter. And she, over the course of the show, I think it's the fourth episode, Hit or Miss, where she talks with the Imagineer Mark Summers, who built Soaring over California, out of an erector set they got as a kid. But he was talking about how, if you really want to be blunt about it, Soaring really is our generation's CircleVision. We get that Coney Island roller coaster, Mulholland Drive, Weirschler Boulevard traffic sensation off of this ride mechanism, which people think that the soaring mechanism is twisting and turning to give you that sensation. And it's like, no, it's not moving at all. You're literally lifted up in this space, and then we blow air on your face, and your brain is doing all of the, oh my God, I'm moving.
It works.
Yeah. We've already talked about Soarin' Around the World, which was the follow-up to Soaring over California. And for a time, for Shanghai Disneyland, the show that was in development was Soaring over Fantasy. So, but with the notion of we sort of split the difference. We do kind of a narrative show. So, for example, you would fly over the Beast Castle and swing by the ballroom and be able to look in just as Belle and the Beast are having their romantic waltz, or fly over Agrabah as the genie's leading the Prince Ali parade through the streets of that city, or fly over Neverland when Peter Pan and Captain Hook are high up in the rigging of the Jolly Roger having an epic sword fight. But in the end, because Disney's own research showed that folks on the Chinese mainland just don't know the Disney characters as well as we do here in the States. In fact, their knowledge is basically Pixar and post-Tangled. Those are the characters they know.
Wow, very recent. Okay.
Yeah. So we have January 17th, first day of this year's International Festival of the Arts of Epcot. We've got our brand new version of the Canada 360 film, Far and Wide. And I have to admit, as a longtime fan of SCTV, I love the fact that they replaced Martin Short with Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, who were, members of the first cast of that show.
Yeah, so they're basically going through the first season of SCTV to get people.
Yeah. That said,
it's a process.
I don't know quite how the folks in Canada are going to feel about the star of Schitt's Creek, starring in this travelogue. But on the other hand, that film is a CBC production. So look, it's all Canada. It's all good.
You can't get more Canadian than that.
Yeah, but I'm honestly more intrigued by Wondrous China. But I don't know what to tell people in regard to when that's finally going to show up in Epcot. As I understand it, it's shot. But it's getting things to clear through customs. It's getting officials to sign off on footage, and Disney finds itself in this hard place between the Chinese government and the Trump administration, and doesn't want to anger either. But they wanted to have this thing up and running in 2020 because it's just the notion of, well, geez, if it goes up in 2021. Between Ratatouille and Guardians,
it's going to get lost.
Yeah. No. So it's like, they wanted to give this its sort of own special window of time. But look, folks, if you want to experience the seamless projection technology, head over to the Epcot experience. I mean, it's a dazzling presentation. And certainly when it finally goes live in the Chinese pavilion, I bet it will be equally dazzling. But going forward, I'll be intrigued to see if, further on down the line, we see Canada Far and Wide embrace this.
Looking forward to seeing it. And Jim, what was the name of Don Iwerk's book again?
This is Disney's Ultimate Inventor, The Genius of Ub Iwerks, and so many great stories, both about Ub's dealings with Walt himself and all of the wonderful technological breakthroughs that we enjoy in the Disney films because of Ub's size worry. Or for that matter, the bird attacks in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, that was Ub's work. He came up with the process that made that possible. But you'll learn more about that. It wasn't
just throwing a bunch of millet spray on actors?
That's right. Here.
Millet spray and honey?
Yeah, just hold this seed bell, okay?
Exactly. Well, Mr. Iwerks had his methods and I have mine. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for the Disney Dish show today. Please head on over to disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes. On next week's show, we'll include my review of the new Riviera Resort, which opens on Monday, the day that the show comes out. Don't forget, folks, we're produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, who's selling handmade arts and crafts from 6 to 10 p.m. at next weekend's Market in the Alice by Ferguson's downtown on Fremont Street in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. These make great holiday gifts, folks, so head on out there and look for Aaron. In the meantime, please go on to iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.